Now we wanted to return. Just the earnings per share. So if you go over here, key ratios, earnings per share US dollars. We wanted to return just that line. So how we go about doing that is there's probably another way to do it, or maybe even a better way, but the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to save it down to a text file. And then from that text file, I'm going to pull out just the line that we need. Okay, so return earnings per share data. Okay, so we're going to create a new variable. Dat data is equal to soup dot get text. A very clever function. So that pulls out just the text from all of this over here. Test that it works, type in dat. Looks kind of similar, but hey, this is necessary so I can just save it down to a text file. So soup get text. So now there's functions that we need to write text files. So we're going to need CSV, I think. So import CSV, a CSV file. Type that in. So now we need to create the file or open the file. If the file doesn't, the command is target is equal to open dot test01.csv. That's what we're calling the text file, comma w. That means we can write to the file. So if test01 doesn't exist, it's going to create test01. And if it does exist, it's going to open it and it's going to allow us to write to it. Next, target dot write data. So we're going to write the data to that file. And then target dot close. You got to close the file. It's always a good thing to do. So let's just try this, run all of this. Cool. Looks like nothing's happened, but if we go to the folder where this is saved, so there's this test01 922. It's just been written. Open it up, and that's the data that has been pulled out of this particular the website with AAL in that format. Okay, so we're making progress here. The next step is we want to turn this into a data frame, which is basically an Excel file in the memory of the computer so that we can just sort the data. So we've already got the data frame function set up. So read into a data frame. So df stands for data frame is equal to pandas pd.read underscore CSV brackets, and we're reading it from this file test CSV, so copy that. So this is just an easy way to get it into a data frame. And then we're saying header is equal to 2, so row 2. So if you look at test, look at this file. This would be 0, this would be 1, and then this would be 2. So it's going to bring in these headers. That's the name of the as the headers in the data frame. Header is equal to 2, and then we're saying that there's no index column in the file. So index col is equal to false. So let's just see if this works. It's a good thing to just keep, as you're writing the code, just testing it all the time, rather than write this massive thing of code and then right at the end test it and see, nothing works, and it's really hard to fix. So df, let's read it in, read in all the data. Cool. So if you see, I've closed that file, but here's the column headings, and this description column didn't have a heading, so it's been called unnamed 0. Okay, so we need to fix that. So just to demonstrate this, to label the point. So that column had no heading. All of these had headings, so that's been read in. Hence, Python has automatically gone and renamed this as unnamed 0. So to fix that, the first thing we want to do is, this is our index column here, the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to make this index column equal to this column. You'll see now why, just it makes it easier to pull out the data that we need. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go df.index is equal to df, and call the column unnamed 0 . Okay, so let's just test that. Run it again. What have I done? df, we'll bring back just the first 3 rows. Okay, I brought back just the first 3 rows, and the index is now the same as this description column. Now we want to just get rid of that description column because we don't need this column anymore. So the way to do that, there's this function called drop. So we want to drop the description column. So df is equal to df.drop brackets, square brackets, unnamed 0, and then we need to say axis is equal to 1, which means it's going to look at the horizontal axis rather than the vertical axis. So axis is equal to 1. So let's just see what happens when we do that. So great. df, and let's bring back the first 5 lines. Cool, so we no longer have a description column like we do above here. So next, we want to rename this column, get rid of this unnamed, and we're going to call it description or desk. df.index.names, so renaming the index, is equal to square brackets and then desk. Let's run this again, bring back the first 5 lines. So that's been changed to desk now from unnamed. Now we want to bring out just the earnings per share. If you look at this spreadsheet, the line that we want is called earnings per share USD. So pull out the EPS data. Okay, so we're now about to pull out the earnings per share data from this data frame that we've read in. So code is df EPS, so we're going to create a separate data frame with just the earnings per share data. Df EPS is equal to df.lock, which is a fancy function. 2 square sets of square brackets. So it's a list basically inside this function. Earnings per share USD. And now we need to do this. This is just copy. So now when you pull data out of a data frame, Python refers to the original data frame. So it's just different cuts of the original data frame each time you do it, which can cause problems later on. So I'm doing .copy here, so it's creating a new version of the data frame, and it's not looking at the original piece of data, just so that we don't have problems down the road. That's just something I tend to do. So let's just run this code. Quite exciting. Hey, it works. So let's type df EPS, and it's pulled out just the earnings per share data, which is what we want, which is fantastic. Great, next step. We need to add a column now. So you'll see, because we want to store all of this data as 1 for all 3,000 stocks, we need to label this. So currently this doesn't actually say what stock it is. So we need to create a column. So df EPS, and we're creating a column called name. Name. And we're going to assign that to the ticker. So let's run that and see what happens when we pull back the so it's added on this column over here, name. So American Airlines AA, which is cool. Next, so now what we're doing is we want to make the index equal to this. You'll see now why. df EPS dot index is equal to df EPS, the column. And there might be a better or easier way to do this, and this might be a bit hacky, but hey, it works. So just run this whole thing again. So df EPS. So the index is now named for the stock. And then just for hygiene purposes, we then want to get rid of this column that we just created. So del df EPS name, doing that, done. Cool. So we're now sitting with some nice sort of clean data. The column's gone. That column is now gone. DF EPS name. Now, the next step is we need to sort of almost get a nice big Tupperware, if you like, or a nice big data container where we're going to store this data. So we're going to run this piece of code 2,000 times with this for loop, or 3,000 times with this for loop. Each time we run it, the results we need to store somewhere. Okay. So to do that, we need to create a data container to store the data in. So this is a giant data frame. So to do that, we're going to create an empty data frame. Main data frame to store data. Cool. And we're going to call that we're going to call this fin df, as in final df, is equals to pd pandas dot data frame Okay, so we're going to just initialize this data frame. We need to actually import. Have I done something funny? It should work for pandas. What have I done wrong? PD pandas dot PD dot, you get to watch, because it's a capital. There we go. Gotta love coding. And it's good that you get to watch me get this wrong. Okay, we've created that fin df, an empty data frame. Cool. So now we've so this is the last bit where we want to go combine the two data frames. So now we just want to put something in here to say that for the very first line, so the method that we're using this is we're using the append method, which basically means we're going to just keep adding this new set of data that we've created here underneath the last set of data. Almost just adding on and adding on and adding on. But now when it's the very first line, we can't use that method. So we're going if j is equivalent to 0 and j is in this for loop over here. If j is equivalent to 0, fin df is equal to df EPS. Okay, and then else fin df is equal to fin df dot append df EPS. So for the first time, else just append.